happen then? You can add it as a audio.
We're back, everyone. Yeah, we're gonna add the drop in as an audio if you weren't here for the drop in. But just to recap, because I see that there's new people that have joined us, I asked Jessie that this concept, this topic about escaping the matrix, has been in her awareness for a couple of months now. We've been talking about it a lot, and I was asking her, why do you think that it came at this specific time when the world actually really needs to understand the system that we're trapped in?
Yeah. And I like, for me, when it came through, I think it was because there's a lot of people in my immediate awareness that are very, um, yeah. Before I answer that, my videos always like that, but it always ends
Yeah,
up being not blurry. I don't know
yeah,
why. It always does
yeah.
this.
So weird, so
um,
strange.
I know, and I can see it clearly, so I don't know.
I see it
Anyways,
blurry as well, but I'm already used to seeing it blurry, so
it happens every time.
all the time.
Anyways, yeah. So I think for
She's
me,
there
it came through to
anyways.
my. I'm here. You can hear my voice. You can hear my 7-minute ramblings. Just you wait. um, yeah, I think like it really came through because there's so many people in my immediate awareness, in my immediate circle, that are awake to the corruption and like removing the spirituality. Because actually, the ones that are awake to this corruption actually aren't even awake to the spirituality side of things, but
Mm,
they think they see what they see, and then they get locked into this identity, and they don't even like. I think it was really just like the constantly, as somebody who zooms out into the I am, the quantum field, whatever you're labeling it, it was constantly doing that when I'd have interaction with these people in my life, and then seeing that they were literally just co-creating the same relationships, the same
mm,
situations over and over again, and they were unconsciously doing it. And then I was like, okay, like how do we, because we think that we have to like fight something. But then I really started reflecting on my own life, and I previously was in a relationship that one would deem toxic. And everyone kept telling me to leave, like fighting, right? It was like a fighting thing. They kept telling me, you have to leave, you have to get out of this, you have to leave this relationship. And then I would do it. I honestly don't think I could count the amount of times I left this toxic relationship fighting it, right? Because somebody
mm,
told me I had to, because somebody told me I had to fight this thing that I was in. And so I would leave and then I'd come right back. I'd leave and then I come back right back. Or I put myself in another situation with another person, even if it wasn't like a romantic thing this time, where it was like the same dynamic. And I just kept doing it because I was fighting it. Like I wasn't
mm,
actually willing to sit in this discomfort, and I wasn't willing to look at within myself and then from this place be like, okay, from this regulated situation, can I now choose how I'm showing up? Like now that I can sit here on this side of things, I actually don't want to be the victim. And the realization is that a lot of people that feel stuck in the matrix, they still are the victim. And that is a very
mm,
uncomfortable truth that you don't want to hear. If you
mm.
still think that there has to be a villain outside of you, then you still are consenting to being the victim.
Yeah, and that's the state in which the system wants us to be, in a state of victimhood. Because when we are victims, we externalize everything. We don't take, we talked about this last time, the radical responsibility that we have to be taking,
Mm,
or that we should be taking, uh, in a also from a place of compassion, not judgment, because that it's very, very different. But they don't want
yeah.
us to be in this state. They want us to keep to be in this state.
Yeah. Yeah. Kathy's saying, I'm not the victim of the world I see from A Course in Miracles. I have read A
Mm,
Course in Miracles. I think it has some beautiful things. I always
it
think that like
does.
everything I read has like beautiful nuggets, but not everything is complete. It's like I think we're all meant to like find these beautiful, I like to say Frankenstein ourselves back together from all these different modalities and books and
Mm,
different people. Yes, that was your
yeah,
lesson yesterday. That's crazy. Claire's doing it, and that was literally hers yesterday. That's amazing. The synchronicities, incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And something that we have also realized is that the different levels of awareness or consciousness when it comes to seeing the matrix, and we've said multiple times that there's a completely different, it's completely different to see the matrix versus escaping the matrix.
Hmm. Hmm.
What does this mean to
Yeah.
you?
I think using my lived experience is that I looking at anything you're trying to escape, if you do it by fighting it instead of like sitting in the discomfort, and now from regulation being like, okay, what do I what's actually happening here? How can I actually like choose? I think we get
Mm.
stuck in like we have to fight this matrix, or we just want to like escape it in a way that now we're dissociating from it, like I know we all, I'm sure I have a pile of clothes over there that I'm like, I don't want these anymore. Like, I don't feel connected to the material crap. And now I have like this giant pile of stuff that I have to get rid of. Um, and I think we all go through this thing where we're like, I don't want to be in the 3D anymore. um, or however it's being framed for you. But I think the reality of it is, you how do we from this sovereign place now get to choose? And I like to really look at it like the way it came through this. And I think maybe it was because at the time there were certain famous people that were commenting on my videos, and I was like, OMG. And so it
Mm.
really did come through as like we are all
I remember
actors. And I don't,
that.
yeah. And I it came through as, okay, we are all actors and we're all playing these roles. We're either playing them subconsciously, or we're getting to consciously co-create and choose. And how do we then from this place like really taking back control of being in the matrix and not fighting it, right? Because if you look at fighting the matrix, I was fighting getting out of this relationship. I wasn't sitting with, well, what am I doing to be in it in the first place? Like, how am I choosing to, like, what's going on here? I didn't want to look at that. I was fighting it. And it was every time I go back, because I hadn't actually looked at the part that I was consenting to, I just would be like, I don't want to be doing this. And then I'd leave and I
Mm.
wouldn't look at myself and I'd go right back in. But I
Mm.
really like to see it as like, from this sovereign place, you get to be now this A-list actor, whatever. We don't even
Mm.
say actress anymore, do we? Anyways.
You know, when while you were saying this just came to my mind, and it's like when the system wants to keep you in fear, when you are in fear, then you have a dysregulated nervous system, right? And
Yes.
a dysregulated nervous system has like two outcomes. You either fight, so they keep you fighting between you and others, between you and yourself, fighting, or flight, or freeze, right? Fight,
Yeah,
flight,
or
or
freeze.
freeze.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like if we see it from a nervous system perspective and neuroscience, being in the matrix is always being in fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way of change it, that is literally you yourself, with the power that you have to regulate yourself. We can always regulate your nervous system. We have the power to do that anytime when we are aware and we make a conscious decision. Okay, so like, this is information, I'm not going to react to this in this way. I'm
Yep.
going to regulate myself and yeah, choose a role with more sovereignty.
Yeah. And I think like when you realize, hey, it's interesting because when this came through, there was a lot of people that were like really demonizing certain actors. And I have no idea like what's going on in people's lives. I'm not going to comment
Yeah.
um, on whether this stuff could be true, could not be true. I have no idea. But there's like so much demonization of those people, and I really realized like we really are all actors. Like we
We
really
are.
are all just wearing masks, and like you can't tell me unless you come to this place where you are really sovereign. And I know I've been working on this really hard since this came through. And I mean, for way more than that time, like way more time than that. But
It's a new level of
you can't
consciousness that you've entered.
yeah, and you can't tell me that we're not just over here like all different people depending on who we're around, because I know for sure I have been, and like I'm still catching myself like, wait, that's actually not how I want to be talking to this person. I don't want to like give up a piece of myself to like make to appease them. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was like now realizing from this sovereignty, going
Mm.
from trying to fight the matrix to now like, actually I get to choose every single relationship that I'm in. And I'm not talking just romantic relationships, like any interaction. I get to choose, am I going to show up authentically as who I am, or am I going to distill? And I think a lot of us like, we distill, and it comes down to
Mm.
fear for a lot of us, right? Because for a lot of us we feel fear, maybe like we're used to, we're used to diluting our truth, or we're used to like tippy toeing around people that are very reactive instead of being like,
Mm,
actually, I'm not consenting to you being reactive like this. I'm not going to distill who I want to be. Because if you have a reactive person in your life and now you're tippy toeing around them, now you are the victim too in this situation, right? Like you're the docile one and they get to stay in that role. That's the role they're keeping because you're not being like, actually, I'm not going to tiptoe around you. And I get to be my own sovereign being in this dynamic as well. And it's
mm,
shocking once you get to this place when you actually realize, like, I've been like co-creating all of the mess. Looking back at the toxic relationship, that was a big one for me because I was like looking back at it and thinking, okay, like from day one, he was reactive. I became
mm,
docile. That just snowballed to a point where if I walked into a psychiatrist's office with him to have like a sit down session, we probably would come down to thinking that like he's narcissistic and like whatever. And I don't need the label now because I'm like, actually, I don't think he was exactly that toxic when we got into this. He was maybe like a half a little toxic, whatever. And then I was like, okay, sure, I'm going to tiptoe around this. And now I'm tiptoeing around it and I'm creating this monster,
mm,
co-creating.
I would love to hear from people in the audience if you've experienced this, if also like how are you managing the current world situation
Mhm.
in your own body with your nervous system. We want to have like conversations with you. So there we have Shelby. I'm gonna bring this out and then let me see if we can read it. So I try to view everything outside of me as a stage, meaning I'm not invested. I'm watching the actors. When I feel sucked in, I realize I've let go of the stage concept and I have to remind myself everything outside of myself is a stage. I hope that makes sense. It makes total sense and it makes me think of you're seeing everything with neutrality, right? You're seeing
Mhm.
everything as information, right? Because you're watching the actors and you're seeing that just as information and you're making a conscious decision of the meaning you're going to assign to that
Yeah.
situation. Because when you see it from a point like from that point, like it seems almost like it's not real.
Yep. Yeah. And
We
I
have
think that's the
also
I am. That's the quantum
that's
field,
the
is
I
being able to
am.
zoom out and go to neutrality.
Totally. Hanik says I have started making better boundaries regarding my own welfare. Jackie trying to protect my peace. Beautiful.
Yeah. I think boundaries are a really good place to start, right? Because I don't think we just there are, I mean, I looking at myself, I definitely had to remove myself from a lot of relationships or dynamics or just situations, environments that were very toxic in order to get to a place where I could even like heal myself enough to step into the
Mm,
non-duality, to step into actually seeing both sides of things. um so I think boundaries are a very good honest place to start. You know, if you don't feel good around somebody, just spend less time with them. I remember my mom
mm.
saying as a kid, like, you are the accumulation. This is not the words because it was very Portuguese and uh, very not these words. But basically, you're the accumulation of the five people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah,
And
the average.
yeah, and it's very
Yeah.
true, right? So setting those boundaries, you know, if you're around reactive people and
Hmm.
you don't want to be a reactive person, that's probably a situation that would be a, you know, maybe intelligent to get yourself out of more than not.
Yeah, and that's where you actually have the power to make a conscious decision and to choose a specific role. When you what you said about the average of the five people that surround you, this is actually so true, and it's called the mirror neurons. Have you heard about
Mm,
it? These
yeah,
like neurons in our brain that I don't know exactly what the process is, but they basically try start imitating neurons of nearby people all the time. Which
yeah,
is why you start when you hang out with people that are more positive. Well, you start thinking, having more positive thoughts, and seeing
yeah,
everything more in a nicer way. You have started. You start having better experiences. Same way the other way.
Yeah. To me, the triggering people are showing us where we need to heal. So by
Let me bring this
bringing
up.
presence awareness to dissolve and integrate, then bring in divine love to help wash it through and complete the pattern, then it disappears. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it. I always find it so fascinating, like hearing someone else's perspective on how they like alchemize within themselves. And it's always so interesting because I think at the end of the day, we're all using the same methods. It's just like a lot of different language to explain it, or different felt sense, but it's all um, the same thing, and that's really beautiful because we're all just walking each other, witnessing, and walking each other home. That's how I like
Yeah,
to see
that
it.
that that's how it is. And given the current circumstances, like what we're experiencing every day, our nervous system is definitely more triggered lately by what's going on around the world. I would love to hear your what would you say to someone who is awakening or has awakened but is still struggling to see this from a non-dual perspective. And we'll talk also about what non-duality really is, because it's not about not participating, but it's about the way that you react. But if someone's just awakening and it's in
Yeah.
that process, what would you tell them?
Mm. The very first thing I started doing was realizing, like, okay, well, the trigger is always me. And I think
Mm,
if you're looking at A Course in Miracles, and the idea that it's either, I think it's like love or ego, but like love or fear is how it really
yeah.
came through for me. And I'm choosing like moment to moment. So if I'm getting triggered, then I get to choose, okay, how do I, if I'm feeling fear, if anything outside of love and like regulation for me is how I first saw it, um,
Mm,
is antichrist, if you want to look at it that way. And then anytime I feel anything that's not love, I just like sit with it. And every single trigger is truly a doorway into it, witnessing a new layer of yourself.
mm, 100%.
This dog
Beautiful.
is so dumb today.
So needy.
he's,
He's the cutest. Oh, look at that.
yeah,
Cute.
he's
Claire saying the people out there are reflections of what we are ready to re-own. Yes, to claim
mm,
our authority, to regain our authority and step into sovereignty,
yeah, exactly.
which which is exactly what doesn't happen when we choose these roles unconsciously. We don't have this authority. We don't have this sovereignty. And I was just talking about this with Jesse before going live. And I had this revelation, and I'm going to share with you guys. And I would love to hear your thoughts, because it's very, very much related to what's happening right now in the world and the whole concept of living in a matrix. And it's about the concept of God, of us being God. And you know that there's, I think it's more like in the New Age wave where some there's like a philosophy that tells us that we are God. But there's two ways of seeing this, like from the ego as individuals, we are God, we're separate, we're God's separate from each other, or as more of an essence of God consciousness, like we are God experiencing itself through us and through every part of creation. So in a sense, we have this power, this creative power and divine intelligence flowing through us, which makes us also very powerful. But when we are operating from ego or separate from each other, living in this state that keeps us comparing ourselves, fighting with each other, living in fear, feeling as individuals, we can never really tap into this God consciousness that we are, that I am field,
Yeah,
because we're constantly feeling separated, because that's how the matrix has trained us to be separate from everything, so that we cannot be the I am.
yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense or
exactly.
not. I don't know if it made sense or not. Let me know if you understood.
I think you make sense, but my brain is also a really weird place to be in. I get
This is what
people often
happens.
like, go ahead.
No, this is what happens between you and I, that we'll just get downloads and just start sharing everything with each other. So That's why we really like this new setup that we've done with the podcast, because it's like a conversation. We're not really just teaching anything. We're just having honest conversations with you guys as well,
Yeah.
about what's going on right now and how can we just heal and all together and be better humans and help each other ascend.
Hard to watch the actors. I think, you know, when we start to separate, or like it's hard to watch the actors, but we really are actors as well. I think that was the
Mm,
biggest thing that really shifted for me, because I was like, I'm effing acting. And like a lot of times subconsciously. Um, and yeah, I think like the hardest one for me to release, like if you had to choose one rule, what do you think was the hardest mask that you've had to take off so far?
ooh, the hardest mask I've had to take off.
Your actor role.
Yeah, but which one? Because we have different roles,
For
right?
for me, I feel like it's the savior. Like that has been the hardest one for me. Like, and I maybe it's like the human design 5-1, but in like that's been the hardest one for me to release. I feel like
Yeah.
it's gone now. But
Mm,
I the remnants of it stayed for a really long time, because I didn't realize that I still had like that little layer left until about a month ago, when I realized that I was still playing that role in my marriage, that I was still playing it in like the family
mm.
dynamic. And then I was like, I remember having that come through where I was like, OMG. And it's like 11 o'clock at night and I'm like having a panic attack. And I'm like, I'm consenting to being the savior. And I'm like, in this consenting to be the savior, I'm like also holding my husband back from his potential, because he's phenomenal, but like he's only stepping up when I'm occasionally like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, I'm bawling. He had been curling that night, thankfully. So he was downstairs late. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And I text him from upstairs when I should be sleeping, but instead I'm having like a giant awakening processes and integrations happening in the middle of the night.
Mm.
And I'm like, ignore the sound. I'm about to turn the bathtub on and have a bath at 11:30 at night. And I went in the bathtub and like turned on a bunch of music that calms me down. I just had the best cry ever. And then I was like, I'm not choosing this anymore. I
You
am now
integrated it.
from this sovereign place. I'm now not going to be the constant glue. I'm not going to be the savior. I'm not going to like, oh, something's wrong,
Mm.
go to mom.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm also a 5-1 projector. So I do feel like I've played the role of the savior in many parts of my life, in relationships with my ex-partners, with my family, but I think that that hasn't been the hardest mask for me. I think for me the hardest mask, or the hardest character to like realize that I was playing unconsciously, I think it's the one of the victim, and that I always
Mm,
needed to be like, that I can't do it on my own, and that I always needed
mm-hmm,
help of, especially of my family, my parents, my dad specifically, and that I'm nothing with that any help, or that, but it's just me victimizing everything. And then I
mm,
realized that actually it's just a wrong perception, and I became very very conscious about where in my life, because there's always like one link, but this is manifested in many other areas of your life, and
yeah.
I feel that that was also for me in my business last year. That's why I went through such like a harsh year, in so many ways, shedding the year of the snake, shedding so many
Mm-hmm,
layers, but making the conscious decision, like becoming aware of where in my life I'm also reacting from being a victim, and that is not true, and just changing that. I felt like I stepped back into alignment with God and with my higher self, and all of these things that I have been struggling with based on this mask that I had just vanished.
and it's interesting because like if you want to stay the victim and like somebody else needs to come and save you, but also like you don't accept the help or like
Mm.
seek out the help that would actually help you, because
Yeah.
you need to protect the identity that's the victim. So
Yeah,
it's like this
exactly.
vicious cycle. And that's also
Mm.
how I see the energetics of the matrix, right? Because if we need a villain outside of us, right, we need to be the one that's awake and sees the corruption, then our energetics are consenting to the corruption remaining here. And that's also really hard to see. But if you need to have a villain outside of you, you are part of the reason why there's a villain somewhere outside.
You
Ouch, right?
it's how we've talked about this in the Jung and Jesus calls about the, like, in quantum terms, this is the observer effect. Once you observe something, once you bring awareness into something, you make it real. Like
Mm-hmm.
possibility collapse in that specific moment, and it becomes real. So if you are bringing awareness to a victim, to like evil, to something evil, someone evil outside of you, you're collapsing possibility there, and it becomes real, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let me just bring, there's Abby. I want to read what Abby said. It's a little bit long, so it's probably not gonna be able to read it out, but I'll read it out loud. So Abby says, over the last 20 years, I've been doing the inward hard work, learning to observe my reactions and realizing they aren't caused by the outside world, but are invitations to look within. As I focus on the plank in my own eye, healing what's stirred in me instead of pointing outward, I found a level of freedom I didn't know was possible. The more I
Mm-hmm.
take ownership of my own heart, the more peace I walk in. And from that place, love flows more easily, not just for the easy to love, but for all people, even the ones the world might label as enemies. Beautiful. There is a deep freedom in this kind of living, peace, a peace that isn't dependent on circumstances, and a love that isn't controlled by how others behave. It's a journey, but it's one that changes everything, keeps me grounded and walking in peace and love. Sounds like you've tapped into a beautiful stream of Christ consciousness,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's that's definitely how I see things too. I think like actually today or like yesterday, I can't remember when this came through, but the idea of um the way Jesus forgives like a murderer, he's not like, oh, he's just like, okay, I see the good in you, and cool, like go on your way, now be whole.
Mm,
And what I really
mm,
realized was that you literally cannot do that to anyone. You can't
mm,
forgive someone for something unless you're willing to look at yourself and be like, what is the part of me that would commit murder? And can I hold that part that could at some point feel so ostracized, feel so afraid, whatever it is? Can I hold this part of myself and give them love and compassion? And from this place where I've forgiven that part of me that is capable of that same atrocity at some point in some alternate timeline, in some alternate space, and now I can forgive someone else for doing that. And this whole time,
mm,
I've thought I've been forgiving people for things, and I really haven't, because I haven't looked at the plank in my eye. I haven't looked
mm.
at the part of me that is capable of the atrocity. And I think that for me is a
Yeah.
real neutrality of it, is like, if I'm stepping into non-duality and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, then I have to look at the parts of me that are willing to do all of these things. And I'm like, oh my God, how dare this corruption? Oh my God, how dare this? But actually, what is the wound lying underneath? And what is the part of me that was so upset at some point, or so hurt, or so alienated, or so whatever it is, that could also have gone down a path that committed that as well?
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I truly believe that Yeshua's main mission in life was to actually wake us up from the matrix. Of course, he didn't call it the matrix back then, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a matrix that we've been trapped in for thousands and thousands of years. And that's why there's a difference between, like seeing the matrix but escaping the matrix. And what is it, like John 18:36 that says, you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. It's not like you'll know the truth and then you'll just know. It's that it'll set you free. That's like the difference between seeing and escaping the matrix. And then when he was at the cross, and he says, like, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they're doing. He's still, from a, even like dying from a different level of consciousness. He sees like that, the unconscious participation of all the people in the matrix. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's
No,
framing
totally.
he knows that the problem there is the unconscious participation of everyone in the matrix, because
It is.
they might not be aware at all. They might see it but haven't
Yeah.
escaped it. But Jesus had actually escaped it because he was able to really forgive to the people that
Yeah.
were killing him, because he saw it from a
Because he could
different stage.
yeah, so he could
Yeah.
see himself in like those. I think it's like there's it goes both ways, and I think for me Christ consciousness really is the neutrality, because not only is it my
Mm,
ability to my divine bowing to the love within you, because from in my opinion I think that half is really easy, but now it's the other side. Can When you do something horrific, can I also see the part of me that could also do that? Because it's how do we
mm,
integrate both the good and the light? How do we see that we're all actually capable of so much beauty and love, and also all capable of destruction and horrific acts? And like that's a terrifying thing to say, because I know like when I think about the horrific things that I've done, they're not very horrific, but that wound that caused me to do this little thing, maybe it was like yell at my husband, or I remember
mm.
as a kid I was very like righteous, and like I hated bullying, and I totally remember my this boy calling some girl fat or something, and I was so pissed that in my reaction I punched that guy in the gut. But like I'm like 12-year-old me punching some boy in the stomach that was older than me. um
Yeah.
so anyways, I like that part of me that just felt so angry and wrathful and punched the kid. Could that have, in another situation where I was like having a really bad day and it was like a really bad week and it snowballed into a really bad whatever it is, could I commit something much worse than that?
Mm,
It's like actually looking at your shadows, and it's
yeah.
really effing hard.
Yeah, Claire is saying that that's the savior plus side. If we would have gone to school
Mm.
together, you would have totally defended me because I got bullied a lot, and
I would have punched a lot of people.
I wish that honestly, I wish that would have happened, but not anymore. Not from this non-dual perspective, which I'd love to talk more about, and also ask you guys in the audience, like, how often do you react? I don't know if the exact word is react, or approach a situation, seeing this information from a non-dual perspective. And I would love for you, Jesse, to explain a little bit more about what non-duality is, in case some people don't know.
Yeah, I think this came into my awareness today, actually. Non-duality, this next layer, because I was having this conversation with this amazing woman on like through DMs on um, Instagram. And if you've ever DM'd me, I'm also going to send you a 7-minute ramble. If So if you've ever been in my DMs, I'm sorry. But yeah, so we were like talking back and forth, and then she said something around the idea. We are talking about Vedic and Western astrology, which isn't important in this topic, but she said something about how like she was following someone that now thought that like the true sky was Vedic. And I also went through this part where I was like, okay, this is where the true sky is, so this has to be the real astrology. And then I quickly like was like, actually, no, it's actually we have to be both. And she was like, well, we're Western and we're Vedic, and that's the duality of it. And it took me a
Hmm.
second because I realized that you can't even see the duality of things, that there are two different perceptions. You can't even zoom out enough to see the duality unless you're in non duality, unless you're in that neutral state. So you actually
Hmm.
don't even see that unless you come back out here. And then you're like, oh, actually, there's this and there's this, there's good and there's bad.
Hmm.
And so non-duality really is, we think it's like rainbows and unicorns, but it's the ability to zoom out and to hold so many different perspectives without collapsing into an identity of, oh, I have to choose this, or I have to choose that.
Yeah, so beautiful. It made me remember of um last year. I went through this like harsh financial situation, and I could say that for some time I was living in scarcity and fear of running out. And I did this beautiful plant medicine journey, and in this journey, I understood the concept of non-duality, very personal to what I was going through, but I was told, or I experienced during the journey, that in my credit card, there was $10 million, and that
Mm.
I already had these $10 million. They were in me. It was like done. And at that
Mm-hmm.
moment I was like, I don't feel like I don't feel excited. I don't feel like nothing has really
Mm.
changed. It feels neutral. And then while I was integrating, I realized that the opposite of scarcity and fear of running money, it's not like this sticks and rainbows. It's just being neutral because you know that it is a fact. And that's how I want people to understand, like, you can approach things from a non-dual, because you don't necessarily react in a specific way as you used to before. And
Yeah.
I let's bring up another question. So Fran is saying, do you
This is a
see
juicy one.
juicy one? Do you see those who embrace Trump, etc., as less awake than the other side? Those valuing peace, love, and fairness. Ooh, love this question. What would you
I'm
say,
gonna
Jesse?
I'm gonna zoom out into the non-duality for a second here because I want to. I want to say yes. Like the part of me whose identity wants to be right because I
Mm,
think like I value love. I value, loving your neighbor. That is huge for me. But if you're using the word awake in the term that people use it in the matrix, the fact of the matter is it really is dependent on the narrative that you're being fed because I think that both sides have a lot of fear there.
yes.
And then when we start trying to like pick sides here of like who's awake and who's less awake, who's more awake. One of the people in my life that was probably a huge trigger for me having these realizations truly and actively believes that, and this isn't my husband because I've talked about us having differing political views. But he truly, this friend of mine from high school, truly does believe that Trump is a good thing. Like, and he has like the he's got the receipts to prove it, and he can go
Mm,
down this like rabbit hole, and he can show you things. And when you zoom out, you're like, okay, um, I could see from your perspective. I'm not. You haven't convinced me, but the reality of it is that they're like we're both being fed a lot of different narratives, and at the end of the day, we're all the same.
yeah.
We're all
Yeah,
the same.
100%. Just again, we're all God consciousness. God experience itself through different situations, experiences, through all creation, right? And I
Mhm.
think that when we start thinking about levels of consciousness or levels of awareness, we're already falling back into that pattern of labeling things to make them comprehensible. And again, trying to understand things in a more structured or logical way. Um, it's also very from the ego mind, right? So to answer the question that Franz asked is, I don't try to label it as, oh, I'm in like a different level of consciousness, even though a part of me does believe that, but I try to
Part
just
of you, yeah.
see beyond that and see that like behind the mask, behind the shield, because we have a mask and we have a shield as well to protect us from
Mm-hmm.
things that have hurt us, and we're scared that they happen over and over again, so we protect ourselves. And I see that the wound, and then I try to see beyond the wound, and beyond the wound there is love. There is someone that, yeah, it's using this shield and mask because there's a lot of wounds, there's a lot of traumas that haven't been healed, there's fear. So I try to focus
Yeah.
on that and see them, okay, well, they are acting in this way because somewhere deep inside they have fear. They have fear of not being accepted or loved, or being
Yeah.
wrong, or being criticized, or all the fears that we all experience. But they
Mm-hmm.
just have to put on that mask and that shield and perform in ways that
Yep.
are seen as
They're
evil,
actors.
but they're actors. Exactly. So I try to see beyond like levels of awareness or consciousness, and just trying to see, like, okay, they haven't healed. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't healed properly either. We're all in the process, but I do believe that there is uh, the level of awareness changes based on how aware you are of your own wounds.
Yeah.
Am I going on
I
rants
definitely.
now? And am
No,
I
I
making
think
sense or not?
that's the beauty of it. No, that's true. The only reason why I think I've gotten to a place where I can be like, actually, like, it's all good and it's all bad is because my husband likes Trump.
Oh
And
my god. That is
yeah,
a
but he does.
that is a test. A good test.
That is a test. It would be a test for many people, but it's made me have to put myself in a position where I love my husband. He's a fabulous man. He takes amazing care of my children. I know, like at the heart of it, he has a lot of like the same. He cares about a lot of the same things that I do, and
Mm.
so and he also doesn't agree with a lot of the things that are happening. It's not that he's like a blanket, like, oh no, everything he does is good. But then I also have to like zoom out now. I'm forced to because I'm like, okay, um, I'm seeing where the stories he's being fed, right? So he's been fed all of this. I mean, we're all being fed stories all the time. He's
Yeah,
being
all the
fed like
time.
all of this stuff that proves that Trump as actually isn't as bad as we think. Whereas like we're being fed on this side all this stuff that Trump is this horrific person, and so our identities are very dependent on it. And I think this then led me to let's go out of politics for a second. The idea that when you wake up out of institutionalized religion, right? We
Hmm.
wake up out of institutionalized religion and now we go to these Gnostic texts and we're like, oh my God, there's this evil, like, and now you feel this vindication because now
Hmm.
there's Yaldabaoth and there's a demiurge and there's archons ruling your life and they're actually the cause of all of your dismay. And now it's like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
there's this other villain. But you literally just swapped one identity for another and you think you're sovereign and you're still asleep. And that is a hard truth to have to sit with. And that is one that smacked me. Like I'm writing that book right now. And I didn't even like really realize what it really meant until I sat down and started writing this book, which is probably going to be another 25 years of therapy for me as I write it. Um,
I can't wait for the
but
book, to be honest.
it
I'm
was like
excited.
a smack in the face for me because I was like, holy shit, like I've just been like saying that I'm sovereign and saying that I'm awake and saying that I am my own inner authority. And I just gave it to someone else. I was waiting for someone else to think of it first. I was waiting for it to show up in a book first so that I could justify these weird knowings that I had coming in. Um, but I mean, the reality of it is like we just keep like we're swapping one villain for another. And until
Hmm.
you can realize the root of the the role you are playing as a victim. And
Hmm.
I somebody in the chat earlier said that about like humanity waking up to not wanting to be the victim anymore. And that's really what we need to do. We need to wake up and consciously choose, hey, I'm not consenting this to this anymore. And it takes a lot of like digging deep into those pieces of yourself that don't want to be seen, right? Because if you want Trump to be bad, then you're consenting to being the victim.
Hmm. Hmm. You're still participating,
You're
right?
still participating.
Yeah, and this reminds me of this. Now that we were talking about Gnostics, this verse in the Gospel of Philip that is, let me just pull it out. Ignorance is the mother of all evil. So this basically means that we, because someone said France says there's no good and evil. Like according to Gnostic text, evil is really just the root. It's ignorance. It's not knowing. It's not remembering our true essence and our sovereignty, and not escaping the world. So maybe that it, instead of labeling as evil, is, yeah, like ignorant or asleep, right?
I
That's
think,
from where it
yeah,
comes.
I think every single thing is neutral. Every moment you have, like, you drop your coffee on the floor. Like the other day, I was leading Breath of God, and whoever, I know some of you were there. I think Yolanda was there. I dropped my entire iced coffee all over the floor, like the
Hmm.
entire like Yeti full or whatever it was, all over the floor, all over the back of my computer. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, just give me a second. Like, and then I'm cleaning this up. And then I look over there and my dog's eating like a Kleenex. And I'm like, all of these things are neutral until I'm like, oh fuck, how could I do that? I'm so stupid. How did I drop the coffee? How did I do this? Now I just ruined Breath of God. Everybody's gonna think I'm an idiot. Blah blah blah. And now I'm gonna react. And now I'm gonna be like swearing in this situation. Now I'm stepping out of putting my money where my mouth is because I couldn't. Okay, actually, I just spilled coffee. Like that is actually nothing. And
Hmm.
so when we start to realize it, like it starts in a little tiny seed, but everything is neutral. right? So, how many of those moments are you allowing yourself to think are bad or evil or good? Because at the end of the day, everything is neutral to begin with. And when you
Mm.
see evil in the world, it's because these people have chosen paths that are very reactive over and over and over again. They started with the coffee spilling and them freaking out, and that turned into a bad day, and that day turned into a bad week, and that week turned into a bad year. And so at the end of the day, the root of that is we are all capable of making that choice moment to moment.
Yeah, there's like a party going on in the comments. Everyone's like agreeing and saying, "Yes, this is so good." Exactly. Some people asking questions. I feel like I'm losing half of
I
the.
get it.
Oh my god! But we're so happy that you guys are enjoying it, that you're participating. I'm gonna pull some other comments because I do want you to feel seen. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring something out that as I've been like keeping up here that Abby said, which is beautiful. I'm gonna pull it out and then I'll read it out loud. And actually, I'm gonna let it. You can change the time it stays. There we go. So Abby was saying that I lost it. Oh, there we go. That the verse "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. What they do" was one I sat on for such a long time, deeply desiring to experience that love. And I sat in stillness, reflecting. Revelation kept coming to my heart, and where I was not free, still within, to allow that love to. Oh, I lost it. Every time you.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
Every time
okay. I
somebody
mean,
says
it
that.
yeah, yeah. So it has been a beautiful journey for sure to
Oh,
grasp that kind
yes.
of love and to actually walk in it. Oh, it's a beautiful reflection, and I love how you are saying that you have to sit in stillness and feel into your body, and that's when revelation was coming. That's
Regulate.
when, yeah, when God speaks, when you regulate your nervous system. Literally, that's why when you do breath work, for example, you
Hmm.
can connect more
Yeah.
with the divine because your system is much more regulated. Meditation as well. Like I get so many downloads when I'm like doing my breath work. If I'm
Yeah.
not like um running out of air in the breath retentions. I'm like
Fair.
a little bit more, a little bit more. But yeah, beautiful. So let's see what else has people been saying. Have people been saying the coffee that Jesse spilled? Yeah, and it's just those
I'm
small
so
small
good at spilling
moments.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's also how, yeah, like catching yourself in those moments and before you react, like the more you do this, the more aware you become, the more you start feeling in your body
Hmm.
how you're going to react to a specific situation, whether that is with the system, with society, or just with yourself, and make a conscious decision, right?
Yeah. We have Dawn who's just spreading delicious mystic wisdom. A mystic who cannot sit with political disagreement without moral superiority has not yet learned stillness. If my spiritual practice collapses the moment someone discerns differently in the political realm, then what I'm practicing may be identity reinforcement and not awakening. Mysticism should take attention toward truth, not toward tribal signaling.
So good, Dawn.
Yes, we love
Literally.
Dawn's wisdom.
But
It's
it's,
very
yeah,
true.
it's not easy, you guys. It's not easy not to react.
It's not. Because it's kept you safe, right? Like
It's
that
kept you
is the
saved.
that's how our nervous system works. That's how our brain, our neural pathways work. You know, you have these neural pathways that go straight to reaction because that's how they've kept you safe until now. And that's beautiful. Like they protected you. But now how do we sit in stillness more? How do we, how do we breathe or whatever that looks like for you, kundalini yoga, but like yoga not from the westernized yoga. I'm talking yoga that is actually being in the body. We're not doing it because it's trendy and you get to buy cute tight pants. We're doing it because we're going to connect breath and body and be in like somewhat stillness and movement at the same time.
Mm, yeah. What is your favorite way to regulate yourself?
It's I am loving. I love yoga of all kinds, to be honest. Like kundalini yoga, I love yoga, all the yoga.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me, well, actually, I love doing like intense exercise, like hit trainings,
Hmm.
CrossFit. Even though obviously my nervous system is, I mean, not dysregulated during the workout, but it's like more in like acting. I don't know if there's,
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say. But then
it's
when I
activated you.
activated after the training, I feel like so regulated. But
Mm.
it's one of the ways that I've been using for such a long time. But also, I love meditating every morning. I love what Fran just said here, and I'm gonna pull it out because Jesus took right action to counteract wrong action. And this is something that also came up this week in Threshold. And
Hmm.
I think it was Theresa that said something about how to approach what's going on in the world, because she's like in her family she has people that have completely different values and beliefs in her, and it's creating
Hmm.
like tension. But how can you approach that from non-duality, even if Jesus flipped the tables? And
Hmm.
it was such a great thing to mention, because after that I did think like Jesus at this point did react. He flipped tables,
Yeah.
right?
To me,
And
that's a humanity, like a showing his humanity.
yeah, 100% is showing his humanity, but also this was a, so what the Bible says basically is that, I think this is Matthew, right? And then that he gets really angry because there's people that are trading animals, like selling animals inside of the temple.
Hmm.
But I heard this from Dan McCann, and if you haven't followed him on Instagram, he's a great Bible scholar. He decodes the Bible from a scholar
Hmm.
perspective, which is
Yes.
beautiful. And he has a podcast as well. His podcast is called Data Over Dogma.
Hmm.
Amazing podcast as well.
I don't think I've
And
ever listened to it.
he talked about how historically speaking, we know that in these times what they were selling in the temples were dead animals. So they were actually selling dead blood, because by the law blood was required as a sacrifice for people to be atoned or forgiven by God. So that
Hmm.
specific thing, that death was being monetized inside of the temple, was the
That's
reason
crazy.
why Jesus flipped the table.
Mm.
Dan McCain, I'm just actually just,
Yeah,
I'll
look him
get him.
up and
I'll get the Instagram,
you'll
his
get him.
Instagram page, and I'll put it in the
Yeah.
chat so that you can check him out.
I
He's
think
really good.
he is really good. I do follow him on Instagram. I find it very fascinating because I think like going back to how do we become sovereign inside of the matrix, which I feel like is most of the conversation, but it's just been a very fun conversation in general. But the idea then that like for me, I don't think it's saying that hey, we're going to be passive and we're not going to do anything, right? There I think each of us from this neutral place can tell what we're meant to fight for. Jesus was meant to fight for that. Like that is atrocious. That is not okay, right? Like so for me, I also when people are consenting to any sort of murder, I'm like full stop. That's not okay. I am going to be vocal about something like that. And also
Exactly.
one of the big things like without taking sides, I'm like I'm mad when, going to the video that I made a while back, I'm mad that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Not because I like Charlie Kirk, but because that is not a solution. And
Mm.
I'm mad that these people are dying in the streets of Minnesota because, again, that's not a solution. I'm mad no matter who it happens to. So, why, if we are saying that we choose love and light, and why are we not having integrity and saying, okay, this is not okay? Because if we now consent to it happening to someone else because it's not us, we are also consenting to it happening to us. Full stop.
Yeah, and non-duality doesn't mean that you cannot feel, like you can get mad at things. You can
You
absolutely get
can
mad
flip some
because
tables.
yeah, you can flip, because love can also be expressed like that um
Passion.
through passion. Exactly, like that is what Greg said to us during that threshold call where we talked about this, that he saw Jesus flipping tables as radical love. and sometimes love does flip
Yeah.
tables. So you can get mad and don't repress it, or don't suppress that
No.
emotion, right? But then once you feel it, how are you going to react? Like, are you gonna
Yeah.
then go and like fight with everyone in the comments? As
Hmm.
I've been tempted when I post something that is more like politically oriented. I don't like politics, but I realize that the more I awake, the more I see that it is in everything. And that if I'm helping people awaken, and if I want people to escape the matrix and be more sovereign and remember their divinity, well, they need to be aware of everything as well, right?
Yeah.
But why was I
Uh,
saying this? Because I lost it.
it'll come back. It always does. Um, Kathy's saying something which I feel like they're having a whole conversation in here. Stillness doesn't mean never turning tables. It means you don't turn them over to feed your ego. Yes, I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So get mad, but like when you flip your table, don't flip your table to feed your ego, but just, yeah, in a way that is more constructive, I guess. I don't know if that's a word
I
or not.
think if I'm doing it from like, if the goal is how do I do it from non-duality? Like for me, this is the where I want to be living from, is how do I see things calmly and neutral, and then now I can make I can respond from that place. Then I like to see the pattern, right? And if I can see the pattern
Mm,
underneath that's pissing me off and not the people that I think are pissing me
mm,
off, then that's where I create my flipping tables. Is like, what is this
mm,
pattern that's underlaying both sides that I'm really actually pissed off, because I'm not pissed off at this person or
mm,
this person, because I don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes. And when you really think about it, you don't even know what's happening behind the scenes in your own head. So you're
mm-hmm.
being fed stories
So
about
good.
somebody here, somebody on this side, and you're making a decision about somebody else's life that you can't even control your own. Like that's the reality of it. And so can I see underneath what are the patterns that I'm not consenting to, that I'm not okay with? And can I from there flip the table? Okay, I'm not okay with
Yeah.
murder. I'm not okay with this, but I'm not going to, that's why I try to very frequently, if I am, I know when I go and I make a video and it's about somebody that's like shown me this trigger or shown me this piece of themselves that they weren't even aware of, that they probably don't know I just made a video about them, because I very
Mm,
carefully from this place of neutrality and like, okay, but what's actually the pattern underneath that I'm really like, where's the hypocrisy? Like for me, I think it's important to know where your values lie, because it'll be easier for you to filter out what are you actually fighting for that's not identity. So for me,
yeah.
a lot of the times it's integrity. If you are saying you're going to do this thing and you're doing something else, that for me, I'm going to flip a table. I'm going to call you out on it.
Yeah. Abs
I'm not going to
100%.
call
And
you out on it, but I'm going to call the pattern out
the
because
pattern, yeah, exactly. And from, yeah, speak your truth from a level of, with sovereignty, not by trying to fight, because non-duality doesn't mean that nothing matters, because obviously things matter, and we will always have our opinion. But non-duality means that we don't react anymore by fighting shadows. And this is what you were saying, like you see beyond them, right? You see that you're not fighting the person because the person has,
Mhm.
or the it's a has a mask as a shield. You're fighting a shadow that they haven't brought light into, right? So it's like
Right.
the work we're doing of bringing light into our shadow, becoming aware, and is the work that they haven't done, so you can see past that, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. Yeah. And also knowing you can't force somebody to do that work either. So you are, it's like
Mm,
so hard being awake to it, because then you do have to be like, because the moment that then you step into like needing a villain, if you will, or now like having to single somebody out, they are the problem with the thing, you're now stepping back into duality and you haven't even realized it.
yeah,
You're now
yeah,
outsourcing your authority.
exactly. Beautiful. Guys, if you have any other questions related to what we're talking about, feel free to drop them. As you can see, we can just bring them out, and it's cool to really have a conversation also with you guys, that I know you were having so much fun in the chat before. but that's
Yes.
amazing. Um, and if not, I think we can like start wrapping up. Let's wait and see if they have any questions or anything they want to add to what we're talking about. We hope that you're enjoying this format of like live conversations. This is going to be recorded and is going to be uploaded into school, and also
Okay.
once and to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, etc. And we are thinking of doing this more often, like live conversations to bring you in and just really also learn from what you're sharing. And yeah, and also just in case you are not aware, we're still running the Jung and Jesus program, which is all about shadow work, and we're bringing in a lot of concepts from scripture, Gnostic texts, psychology, neuroscience. So it's a very, very cool program that we're running right now. You can still join us, even though we're starting week 3 tomorrow.
Hmm. Week 4.
Week 4.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, yeah, we'll you can check on school. They can join, right? Anyways, there's a question here from Hanek. How would you define matrix from your perspective? I think we already talked about this at the beginning, but we can just repeat it. How would you define
Yeah.
matrix again, Jesse?
Well, I feel like it's the 3D for me. Like it's
Mm,
this entire thing is the illusion, and that actually you're at the essence. You are the you can say you are the spirit or you are the observer. You know, I think at the end of the day, we often, and this is the part where you get caught in non-duality, and this is why I always like I love having conversations with people that say things in different ways than me, because it gives me like in real time an opportunity to zoom out and be like, oh, they're actually saying, like, if they're using spirit, I would use like the observer, the I am, and we're actually having the same conversation. But I could get stuck in the identity that the I am needs to be the only thing, and now I could fight them on it and tell them that they're wrong.
mm.
So whatever that would be for you, I feel like the idea, whether you're a soul living this experience, you're the observer getting to your God. Um, how did you phrase it? Your God. Living,
Oh,
experiencing life
God
through.
experiencing itself through creation, through us, and
Yes,
through
yeah,
all creation. So
yeah.
God consciousness
However,
is running through us, which is not aware of it. And in order to be able to tap to this God consciousness, we need to do it as a collective, not as individuals.
yes, exactly. So I think for me, the matrix is like all of this that's happening around you. You know, like even your relationships, even like everything. At the end of the day, is just. It sounds stark and sad, but it's an illusion, right? Because you are at your core essence the observer, or you are at your core essence the spirit.
Yeah. And do you think that the systems that are in power, whether that is religious systems, political systems, are um, aware that they're operating in that way to keep us in the matrix, to keep us unconscious, to keep us separated so that we don't awake as a collective and tap into this God consciousness? Do you think that there's people that
No,
know this and no? You think there's
no.
also
I don't think you
unawareness?
can. I don't think you can be in this awareness and still choose corruption like that. I just don't. From somebody who, like, I've talked about this before, my awakening was through the body. Like, it was 1 second I'm living my life, and yes, like I'm
Mm,
in the flow, and like I'm being led to creating this business, and this is going amazing, this and blah blah, and like I'm not, it's not all roses because I'm having toxic relationships and I'm doing that and that, but like the connection to the divine and actually just allowing myself to surrender and being led is still there. But one day I'm just living a normal life, and the next day I'm seeing Jesus and I'm claircognizant and I'm getting downloads, to now, like, it hasn't even been a full year of that, and I'm like, I'm tapped into the field of consciousness and zooming out while I'm just chilling and my daughter's screaming in my face, or I'm,
hmm.
for TMI, shoving suppositories up my 2-year-old's butt because she's constipated, you know? Like I actually feel like at this point I have to tap out of the fields more than I have to tap into it. Um and so I just, I don't think that it's even possible. I think it's the subconscious ruling the show. And I know we want to believe that there is some like notorious thing going on in the background, but you tell me, all of you here listening right now, Juan as well, you guys are quite awake. Would you choose to manipulate people in that way?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
So
not.
I just don't think that it's possible. I don't think you can be tapped into this and do that consciously. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
So this
Yes.
whole time we're so pissed off at like these people doing these things consciously, that they're consciously creating systems that are like destroying us, but I think it's like an accumulation of
Which makes
collective
me,
amnesia.
which makes me think, if then, if that's true, like the systems in power are running the matrix also from a level of unawareness, like they're not conscious about it. It just means that this is part of God's plan. It's the it's all divinely orchestrated to happen so that maybe God can express, or can um, experience this level of polarity between us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of. We have Liliana. Liliana saying, I'm surprised that the conversation moved in the direction of political figures. Politics are so complex, full of secrets, full of manipulation. We live in the era of deceit, and this is part of the matrix, I believe. I read this somewhere. I would like to hear what you think. What you hate in the other is what you refuse to see within yourself. Yes, I would agree with that. It's
100%.
interesting because I think that like people want to talk about politics because it's like so in there. And Fran said something about the US doing like a collective shadow work right now, but I think yeah, I think we're seeing that as a physical manifestation there for sure, a lot more
Mm,
than anywhere else. um and so
yeah.
that's very, they are complex, but and I think they are, it is part of the matrix, but not in the sense that we want
Yeah.
to believe. It's part of, it's showing us what happens, like this manipulation, and you see the manipulation, and like when I see it, it hurts because I'm like, I don't think I could do that. But then I think like, well, what about that one time that my son wanted to go, I'm going to make this up on the spot. So my son wanted to go hiking, and then I woke up that morning and didn't want to do it, and like I convinced him that he actually didn't want to do it because I felt bad to just be like, son, I'm too tired, you know? Like I'm also manipulating at times. And so when I think of it that way, it's like I just don't think that you can be this conscious, like actually conscious of the roles that you've played in people's lives, and you've shone the light that is you in those crevices of your soul, and choose manipulation.
Yeah.
But I
That's
agree
true.
with like what you hate in the other is what you refuse to see in yourself.
Yeah. There's it's Matthew as well, right? Matthew, or is it in the Gospel of Thomas? No, I can't remember. We looked at it in one of the threshold sessions. There's a verse. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
Um,
This dog just is loving me today, and I would like to kick him out. Rufus.
I'm trying to find it over here. If you cannot see the speck in your brother, or something like that. I'm not the best with Bible verses, to be honest, guys. So I started reading the Bible pretty well a year ago, mostly. So I'm not so like good with reciting verses, but you don't need to recite them. You just need to really embody the values of the Bible, right?
That was a big one
That
for me. And the reason why I feel like the day I went and I saw Jesus Yeshua was the day that I sat there and I knew I was like bigger for, I was meant for something bigger, and it had to do with God. And I was like, but who am I? Like, I haven't fully like dissected this Bible before. I can't be reciting verses. And that was like totally in my head. That was the who are you to do this?
mm,
And I sat there and I did like the Reiki healing on myself until that went away. And then that's when that happened. So it doesn't matter. You
yeah.
don't need to, it's not about being perfect. Because also, like,
Exactly.
the Bible is someone else's words.
Interpretation. Yeah.
Yes. And I think like
Yeah.
I had a huge realization this week around that because you like Socrates, we're going to go just quickly. Socrates being like the masculine. You know, you're waking up in the mind first and he didn't even want to like embody the thing. Like he was telling you you need to wake up to the matrix and then you need to leave the light behind and go back in and rearrange the world, but he didn't want to do it. And then Jesus then like takes this knowledge and like what is this 400 years later or something, takes this knowledge and he now embodies it. He starts to like do the thing. He brings a feminine in, he's like embodying it. But then he doesn't take radical responsibility for it. That's where I feel it went wrong because he doesn't take radical responsibility for this embodiment and the knowledge that he's actually getting because he doesn't write it down. We see it from
Mm.
other people's perspective, and you see a lot of people saying this because they're like, oh, you can't be sharing this, like, how are you sharing this divine knowledge? It's divine knowledge, you can't share it. So everyone's afraid to put their name on a book or do a thing to put it out there into the world because then you're taking radical responsibility for this knowledge
Mm.
being out there. But somebody has to do it, and it's not in saying like this is the absolute truth because it absolutely is not. But where's the firsthand account? We don't have any. Socrates didn't write it down. Jesus didn't write it down. And Jesus did take the next step of embodying it. But then we have third, fourth, I don't even know what counts because, like, it's not actually the disciples writing the books. It is somebody like Paul. So, Paul to me is somebody that has a vision with Christ and then, like, gets thrust into Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
not, yeah.
I want to bring a couple of comments out. So Amanda says that maybe the reason for such duality and polarity is because for the growth of ourselves and collectively, we each need to navigate ourselves back to unity consciousness and Christ consciousness, which I totally agree. And it's what I was telling, like, was trying to explain before that maybe I think I lost
Mm,
it. But basically, God
mm,
is, this is part of God's plan to experience itself and to, through us as individuals, to get us back into one or unity consciousness or God consciousness together. And the awakening
mm.
is just realizing that we're not separate, that we're all one with God and one with each other. And that's how, and the beauty of awakening, when we awaken, it's like people can perceive that in us. It's like their souls start
Mhm.
to be contaged. It's like awakening is contagious, so their souls
Yeah.
start perceiving it and also start awakening without us having to force anything on anyone. That's why we never tell people like you should impose what you are experiencing on others. No, just live it, experience it in your own way, live your truth, and people will start waking up. So I love what you said, Amanda, about this, because it's basically that.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to bring another, oh, this one. Hanek is asking, how do you, and I don't know if I'm saying your name right, Hanek or Hanik? Hanek. How do you know it is the real deal when you see Yeshua?
This is for me.
This is for
That was
you.
one of the that was one of okay. I remember somebody reaching out to me when I had this experience and they were trying like I was still in the fitness world and I knew it was like shifting and this woman had changed to like build your booty for Jesus. That's not what she's called. But anyways, um I messaged her because I was like, okay, we're kind of in the same field, and I'd like tell her about my experience, and she's like, you really need to be careful. You need to make sure it aligns with the Bible, and like she immediately was
Mm,
like, you need to find proof, and I was like, whoa. And now I sit here like however many months later, and I realized that that's literally the only thing that the devil asked Jesus for with proof. Prove yourself to me.
mm,
Prove that you're right. Prove that God is your father. Prove, 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 prove. Hand your authority to someone outside of you. So I
so
can't tell
good.
you how you know that it's the real deal. You will know. Like for me, it was bawling my eyes out because I've never felt so like this unconditional love as I sat there looking at this like pure light. And it was like, and I have 4 kids, you know, and I felt it since I felt that like unconditional love here and there in my life. But that was the first time I felt it. And I just like started bawling. Like it was like a river flowing from my eyes. It was uncontrollable. So that's what it looked like and it felt like for me. But I am an empath. So like I feel very deeply. So I think it makes sense for me to have that felt experience be like the most prominent part of it, of how I was like, there's no way it can't be this, because I'm like, the way I got hit by a truck of unconditional love, I can't even describe.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it's not up to me to tell you what the proof will be. You need to be able to tell if this is real or not.
Yeah, and I think everyone's experience with the divine will always be different, even if you have a beautiful encounter with Yeshua, whether that is through feeling or through a vision or through a dream. I think everyone will experience it differently, and you'll know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for the questions. Those are amazing. I think this is a good time to wrap up. If anyone doesn't have anything else that wants to share,
No.
ask. Oh, there we have. Let's
One
bring
more.
it up. Let's bring it on. Yeah. So Eddie, I asked earlier, but I think I got buried. How can you maintain that sense of non-duality and presence when faced with triggering situations? I can get these elevated states alone, but the second I start interfacing with people that challenge me, it's easy to lose it and start speaking from ego again. That's a beautiful question. We talked about this also this week on Threshold. Um, what I think that happens in this situation is that you have to, as Jesse always says, like zoom out and then first look at yourself and become aware of the wound underneath the trigger. Like, this person is obviously, or this situation is triggering something in you, which is very likely to be linked to something you experienced as a child. That it's called the origin imprint, right? And this is Jungian psychology, and this wound that you're carrying from a child that was never integrated, it was just hidden to protect you from not feeling that again. So look at yourself from that inner child perspective and have compassion. Well, first, where is it coming from? If you know where is this coming from, like, have compassion with your inner child, because it's just protecting, using this as protection. This trigger is literally just information of where you're still wounded, and have integrate that with compassion. And then from the other perspective, from the other person or situation, well, usually it will be a person that what triggers us, or a person that does something that leads to a situation. But also look at that person with compassion, because again, the reason for them acting that way, or saying what they said, or whatever it is, it's also coming from the wounded child,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that has not been integrated, that has not been brought back home. So it's really, from where I see it, is about compassion with yourself and with the other person.
Yeah, definitely with yourself first. I feel like and I've talked about Christ consciousness being this way, is like, look at myself first, and then from this place I can look at them, and then from this place I can look back at my
Mm,
past, and from this place I can look at them and what's going around with them, and from this place I can then like look at like, how am I actually doing this in other parts of my life, and then I can start zooming out on how they're doing that in their life, and then you start to see the collective pattern. So if we're going, and that's kind of what we're doing in the next 3 weeks of
yeah,
the rest of
yeah.
this challenge. But
Yeah, Fran.
um
Fran is asking how may we join the ongoing class group one mentioned. I'm going to share with you the link to the Jung and Jesus program we're hosting right now inside of Threshold. Threshold is where we host these weekly classes and gatherings and conversations, and we do like challenges, and we do full moon and new moon rituals. So it's like everything we experience and we
usually,
learn, we put it there, or we share it there in
yeah.
Threshold. And so right now we're doing the Jung and Jesus, which people have really loved. And yeah, people have been having breakthroughs, becoming more aware
Yeah.
of their triggers, like really, really stepping into sovereignty. So I'm sharing the link there. We will send you more
Mhm.
information as well throughout the week on school and email, so that you can join us for the next 3 weeks. You will have access to the replays as well. And we're also having like a deep dive on escaping the matrix, like a 3-day workshop inside of Threshold, happening in like 3 weeks when we finish Jung and Jesus as
Yeah,
well.
after we finish it.
So if you join Threshold through
We
Jung and
always have
Jesus
like a
program.
challenge every month, like some sort of something. Jung and Jesus
Yeah.
was a fun one though.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. This was such an amazing conversation. I love also how casual it was. You know, it's like literally we're
We
just
need more of
chilling on.
these. I feel like we need
Yeah,
to do this. We need to open up all of these recordings because it was very
we
fun.
should. Let's do it. Would you like us to like? Because we record episodes almost every week, and we do let people from Threshold in, but we're thinking about just making them public to anyone in the Mystic Misfit Society. So if you
Until it
would
gets
like this.
overwhelming, until there's like 500 people in the chat, and then I'm tapping out.
Yes, and Candace is asking where to find this. This will be posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube on Friday. So we release new episodes of this podcast every Friday. If I don't get too busy throughout the week that I don't have time to finish editing. But the goal
Fair.
is every Friday. The goal is every Friday. And so this one will be going out on Friday. And we'll definitely let you know about the next one, which will probably happen next week, right? Not this week coming, but the week after.
Yeah, because you're traveling.
Yeah. And we'll have guests as well. So when we have guests, you can also chat with them and ask them questions. And it's cool, like we did last week with Well. Anyways,
Yeah.
thank you all. Love you so much. Thank you for being
Thank
here. Thanks for
you.
your questions. DM us if you have any question, and we'll see you Instagram School or on Threshold if you are part of Threshold. Okay.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.